Welcome to Adventure Freaks, a podcast on living abroad on a budget. All right, so today I'm heading over to East Africa, way out in East Africa, in an island called in my new friend Kru Dangar told me it's Maurice in
Local
Creole,
way, yes.
or Mauritius, Mauritius, and it's a little island east of Madagascar, I think. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right. If you can
Yeah,
spot
yeah.
it on a map.
Yeah. What we'll do is we'll pull a map up here in a second. So we're going to this interesting area because it's such a gorgeous and beautiful island. So, Kru, tell me a little bit about you, where you're from, and then how you landed in Mauritius.
Yeah. Well, much like all the people on the podcast, I think I was born somewhere else, ended up somewhere else, sort of thing. I come from a place called Gujarat in India. It's a state, sort of a Gulf region in the northwest of India. I lived there until about I was 18. Most of my schooling was done in a boarding school over there. And as soon as I finished my studies, I ended up in Australia for my sort of bachelor's university, if you may. And somewhere along the way, I put my studies to the side. I was in the technology sector, so I decided to do what was hot at that time, I guess still is, a startup. And it didn't quite work out. After a couple of years, we were just sort of breaking even and whatnot. But at that point, we decided to sort of close it down, and it was time for me to finish off the rest of my studies. There was about a semester of it left before I could graduate, but I had no money left. So someone told me from the campus that, you know what, you could do an exchange sort of internship or something in Mauritius. We've got a campus we partner with, and it would probably cost you a lot less. And I said, okay, what the hell, let's do it. And packed my bags, went over to Mauritius. I thought I was going to be here for 6 months. It's been 4 years now. So
Wow.
Here we are.
Wow. So, all right. So tell us, I mean, when you first got to Mauritius, I mean, what was your impression of it?
Well, look, so, I mean,
it's in the middle of nowhere. It seems like it's it's in the middle of the Indian Ocean, in the middle of nowhere. So it's really this unique place.
That's exactly right. It's a tiny little island. I mean, the only reason why I knew about it, because I used to be housemates with a guy from Mauritius back in Australia once upon a time. And I got to hear all about it. Of course, you Google a place before you go anywhere. And I saw these beautiful beaches, and it's a tropical island through and through. And you know, you kind of think, okay, it's going to be a lot of beautiful beach days and all of that. But you sort of don't realize that if you live in the center of the island, it's going to be a little bit different. So that's where I was in the beginning, and then I kept asking myself, where is the promised paradise? And they like to call it a paradise around here. So it was a bit of an adjustment, because I think I was just waiting to be a tourist or something, but there was some work to be done. But it really grew on me after I moved places, and after about 6 months of living in the center, I moved closer to the coast, and like a little village towards the coast, and that just completely changed everything.
Okay. Can you like walk or bike to the beach now, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I could. I used to be so close to the beach at my previous place that you could just, I would walk my dogs at the beach every day. You could hear the sort of waves at night when it's nice and quiet. Super close. Now it's about, I would say, about a 10-minute drive from the beach where I live.
Well, let's pull up a map here so we can show the viewers where Mauritius is. Okay, so here is, I'm going to zoom out here. So here is Africa, and then we got Mozambique, Madagascar. You can't even see Mauritius, it's so small.
Nope.
But then you zoom in, and there it is. So what is the history of Mauritius. What's some of the backstory? Um,
Yeah, no.
it's an
In
African island.
about That's correct. It's considered in the African region, and quite a developed and advanced economy for the African region, but not on the mainland. The story is that there are no indigenous Mauritian people, so there's absolutely no one that was here except the legendary bird dodo that people might have heard of.
Oh wow.
So yeah, that went extinct. But around about, I think it's 14th to 15th, around about 11th to 12th century, the Arabian sailors from the Middle East who came around here, but didn't quite settle here or anything. But they do mention it somewhere in their history. Then came the Dutch, who decided to build a couple small ports around the south of the island. They lost the island not too long after to the French, who primarily turned it into a French department and cultivated sugarcane, became a sugar hub, became the place to be for a lot of Francophones. They were around here for quite a bit of time, I would say about 3 to 4 odd centuries, and that's where the European influence comes from. A lot of Mauritian people still speak a lot of French, but as I said, the local language is Creole, which is a derivative of French and a mixture of other languages.
Yeah.
And the French lost the island again to the English people, and they made it their colony for a couple centuries before. And the island got its independence quite recently, actually, after the 60s. It was when the island got it. Yeah. So fairly new country in big scheme of things. A full-fledged country now. That's the history. So in a sense, you had European settlers coming in. They brought along with them a lot of sort of the slave trade, brought a lot of African slave labor here. Britishers brought with them indentured Indian and Chinese laborers. There were also some Chinese merchants who came around. So really, it's very hard to define a typical Mauritian person because they look Caucasian, they look Asian, they look Indian, they look African and black. But at the end of the day, they're all Mauritians. And every single Mauritian speaks about at least 2 to 3 languages. So
wow. So it's very diverse.
Very much so, yes. Very much so.
And the food must be really good there.
Oh, the food's great. Yeah, the food's great. Absolutely.
Do they have a large variety of dishes there based on the diversity, or?
It's a lot like, if you were to compare it to somewhere in the US, it's a lot like Louisiana. So you've had the sort of noodles being mixed with whatever ingredients were available on the island back in the day. So there's that Chinese influence of dumplings and noodles. There's sort of the African influence with a lot of root vegetables and things like manioc or sweet potatoes, etc. And then you have a heavy Indian influence as well, because a lot of the indentured laborers were Indians, and they brought along with them all these spices. So suddenly you ended up with a bit of everything from everywhere. And that became Mauritian food. Street food's big. Street food's a big thing in Mauritius. So you find little sort of carts selling all kinds of traditional stuff here.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So what is it? So first moving there, what are the visa requirements moving to Mauritius? Is it?
Right. Tourism makes up a huge part of the economy. It was pretty hard hit during the COVID times here for people. But so they make it super easy for tourists to get in here.
Okay.
A lot of people, if someone wants to just come check it out, it's super easy. A lot of the countries have visa on arrival, depending on the country. Fairly easy to get into Mauritius as a tourist. And then there's quite a few different. It is a very welcoming country in the sense that there are a lot of different pathways to come to Mauritius or even live here, work here. There's retirement options. So if you bring in a certain amount of money and you decide to retire here, you get a sort of a 10-year residency permit, which is renewable again at the end of it. So there's that for people who would like to retire here. Buying a property is a great way of getting a residency permit as well. And right there, you get 10 years of residency. There is certain criteria to be fulfilled. The property needs to be about, I think it sits somewhere around $500,000 mark.
Okay.
If you decide to purchase a property at around about that, or apartments which are much lesser in value, you get a residency permit. That particular option, they seem to be making it increasingly easier to sort of get residency through investments in real estate. Or
do you have to spend a minimum of 500,000, or can somebody come over there and buy a flat for 50,000 and then get a residency permit?
Yeah, right. See, here's the thing. So if you're a foreigner like me, there are certain properties that are not available to you. So that's to sort of keep the housing market in check, I guess.
Sure.
So only the certain apartments over $100,000 range, or houses which are over 400 to 500,000, depending on the latest figures, because they try to bring it down constantly.
Yeah, and that's USD. That is USD.
That is USD. Yes,
okay.
That is USD.
Wow.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of options there. And they try to make it easier every day, to be honest with you. It's a popular option among a lot of South African expats, a lot of European or French expats. And so we're starting to see people from a sort of places which we didn't have them here before, but because of the real estate thing, they do tend to settle here. And it's a great life. I mean,
yeah, but that's still pretty expensive. I mean,
it is.
I mean, for you, I mean, to buy something that like if you're Mauritius and you wanted to purchase property, what could you find a really nice flat for, or a home for around there? What are the costs?
So it's an island. Location is super important here.
Yeah.
If you were to get a small little studio by the ocean overlooking the place, that could easily set you back $100,000 or probably more.
Okay.
So location, prestige is a big thing, because you have a lot of luxury real estate here as well. But let's say if you were to get a decent house to live in, you are looking at about sort of $80,000 to $100,000 mark anyway.
Okay.
But
wow.
But you'll be close to the ocean with that amount, very close to the ocean as well.
Yeah. Well, do the salary?
But that's for us outsiders.
Yeah. Do people that live there, do the salaries, people that earn a salary there, can they purchase houses that costly? Because that seems pretty expensive based on island life.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? So for the prices that I talked about for houses apply to outsiders.
Okay.
But if a local person wants to purchase a property, it is fairly easier. There are financing options available, and banks are, low interest rates and mortgages, but it is calibrated to people's income here. And pretty much any full-time worker with a decent job or a double income house with your partner, they tend to be able to afford a mortgage and a home.
So for you, is your only option to rent at this time, or?
That's correct. Yeah. So ever since I've lived here, I rent. Rents tend to be quite sort of, they level the playing field. So if you're an outsider, whether you are a Mauritian or you're a foreigner, the rent sort of remains the same for everybody. That's something that everyone can sort of afford equally. But yeah, for example,
what are the rents there?
Again, so there are certain places on the island which are a bit more urban, if you may. You don't have to drive too much. You don't need a sort of a car. You could get away with a simpler mode of transport over there. And you want to live there as a non-Mauritian as well, to be quite honest with you. Rent varies anywhere from, I've had a place that was super nice, walking distance from the beach, and I was paying as little as about $250 a month.
Wow.
And Yeah, so the rental thing is really great. I live at a place right now that sets you back about to around about $500 a month,
Okay.
and that too is in an urban space, like an urban region of the island. I'm pretty
Mhm.
close to work as well, and you get your own little yard and everything. So, and I would say that the kind of place I live in right now, $500, it's a very decent place. Like I'll be happy living here for a couple of years if I had to.
Sure. Yeah. Now, Kru, do you live? Is it a one bedroom or a studio or?
It's a 2-bedroom freestanding house. So, uh,
Wow.
yeah, you get
And
your own little yard and everything.
do you live there alone?
I live with my partner. My
Oh,
girlfriend lives with me.
okay. So
Yeah,
you guys, it's 500 for both of you.
exactly.
So I mean,
Yeah.
if you had a roommate, it'd be 250 a piece. That's like really super cheap in Mauritius.
Oh, no, no, no. That's 500 for the both of us. So that's 250 each
250 each.
between
Yeah.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
That's really inexpensive.
That's right. And I mean, it's a great place, and I like it here. You get your own. I've got a little, tiny little pool, like a little plunge pool over in the
Oh,
backyard as
nice.
well. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you
It
got a
looks
feel.
really nice from where it
Well, thank
looks
you.
really nice. Yeah. And I like
But
the little,
apartments, you like the lights back there?
well, I like the lights. I love the little area and where the light hanging on the ceiling there too. That's cool.
Yeah, got a little TV place there. No, I mean, the landlord did a great job with the sort of furniture and everything. Um, but there's this other thing. You have to go through a lot of houses before you find the right one. I guess it's the same thing everywhere.
Yeah.
But I think a better way to go is also apartments. There's really nice apartments, walking distance from the beach, would set you off about nothing more than $300-400.
Wow. That's
And you're
really,
talking, yeah, yeah. If you get lucky, yeah, you're talking ocean view apartments for $400 a month, $500 a month at the most.
now people that are actually moving or traveling to Mauritius, are they typically digital nomads or do they find work in Mauritius?
Right. So, as I was telling you, there are a number of pathways to come and live or work in Mauritius. We discussed the more sort of settle down, retire, purchase a house ones, but there are some cooler ones for digital nomads. They made it really simple during COVID times. There was a visa called, it was tend to be supposed to be as a place where you can come relatively COVID free when there was COVID here, at least in 2020. They made it super easy for people to come here on a 1-year visa, but the idea was that your revenue stream has to be from outside of Mauritius. As
Okay.
long as you could show an income of about $1,000 a month, $1,000 to $1,200 a month,
Yeah.
you could get a year or 2 year long visa to
Oh,
come and
wow.
live here. Yeah, yeah.
Has
That
that
makes it super.
is that helped with attracting digital nomads?
I think I haven't. There are other visas which have been more popular, to be honest with you. So, for example, you could go for a self-employed visa where you could come here and work as a freelancer, do your own thing, whatever that may be. All you need to do is, I believe, show about around $30,000 as in your bank account, um, and be able to show that you have a regular stream of income. And that way you get a 10-year visa to come and live and work here. And upon the end of 10 years, if you show them that I've been able to generate a consistent revenue, you get another 10 years at the end of it. So that's been more popular, I would say, among a lot of people. And I know a friend, she's from Poland. She recently got that particular visa for 10 years, meaning she could live and work here, do whatever she wants, and even be a digital nomad if she wants to. Took her about, what, 6 to 8 weeks to get the visa. That was it.
Wow. That's great. So,
And there's one more way, actually. So there's this. There's, of course, if you want to open your own business here and invest money. there's always options. But if a Mauritian company wants to employ you, that's a super simple way as well. And that's how I live in Mauritius at the moment. So I happen to find employment here. They get you the visa. They take care of everything.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And have you been working for that place for the past 4 years or?
No, I moved around actually. So this is probably my third employer since then.
Okay.
So yeah, because I kept bumping into opportunities, kept bumping into sort of cooler things that I wanted to do. At the moment, I work for a company that started originally in France. We make a little e-commerce tool for sort of marketplace sellers and whatnot.
Gotcha.
But I've been there for about just under a year now. It's been great.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about the cost of utilities. So when you're paying $500 a month for a house, but then you have to pay electric, water, Wi-Fi, Netflix, whatever you get over there. Do you guys get Netflix?
No, we do. Yeah. Yeah, we do. They've got Netflix.
Yeah.
I think it's everywhere now.
Yeah, I think so. But how much, if you added on, what would be the cost of all the utilities that you pay per month?
It's quite reasonable, I would say. Fuel's been the one that's keeping people on the edge lately, but I think that's still pretty global at the moment. Taxes have recently gone up, but other than taxes on things, income tax remains. Oh, by the way, this is interesting. Income tax in Mauritius is capped at 15%, so that's pretty good. And a lot of people find value in that, in bringing their business here as well, especially sort of borderless companies like technology companies and whatnot.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
A big plus. Utilities, my electricity bill has probably never been, summers tend to be a bit hot, so you use your aircon and whatnot. I've never paid the electricity bill that might have been more than $70 a month, for example, 70 to $80 a month.
Okay.
Internet's cheap. We pay about, what is it, about $50 a month for Wi-Fi at home. Netflix is the same. I think.
How about water?
Water's cheap. I think my last water bill might have been about, it's included in my rent, so I don't exactly know, but I remember a place where so I used to pay my own water bill at a place before, and I think it was $10 a month or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So Mauritius is really this kind of a hidden gem of a location that's super affordable.
Yeah, and I'm super surprised that it's not more talked about in the whole digital nomad circle. I sometimes think, in a lot of ways, it's kind of better than Bali as well. A lot of people talk about Bali, but there are a few things that people find surprisingly more expensive here. Food is one of them. So your supermarket and groceries. What is it? About 70 to 80% of the food is imported into the island.
Okay.
That kind of keeps the prices up. Yeah.
So that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. That remains a bit more expensive.
Well, if you were to, everybody takes a flight in and out of Mauritius, but if you were to take a boat to Madagascar, could you take a ferry to Madagascar?
I tried to find out the other day. I don't know about Madagascar, but we've got islands closer to us than Madagascar. There's a little French island. It's a French territory called Réunion, which on a clear, good day from the west coast here, you could actually see the island, sort of just a landmass far away. I know there's a boat that goes there. There are other smaller islands around Mauritius that belong sort of to Mauritius. I think it's a 5-day ferry ride or something, but I haven't come across anyone who actually came a long way on a boat
to Madagascar. That'd be probably quite the trek.
It would be. I know there's a lot of sort of ship routes that go through Mauritius, so I don't think it would be impossible. You just have to find the right boat to catch.
Yeah. And how are the flight costs in and out of there? Are they really affordable?
I would say they're pricey because it is a bit sort of remote. You are a
Okay.
little isolated, so it's a lot of miles as well to get here. So
Yeah.
flights tend to be typically. I mean, for someone who's used to flying within North America or let's say Europe or even within India, for me, I found the prices to be slightly more pricey.
Okay. So let's talk about healthcare. So everybody that moves to a country's interested in their healthcare. What type of healthcare do they have? If you know, do they have a national healthcare, or the cost of seeing a doctor? Anything you could share?
No, sure. Touch wood, I haven't had to go to one, but locals get free healthcare and free higher education as well as primary education, so they're all covered for. But still, of course, if you're affluent enough, you would choose private sort of healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
There's some great private hospitals here, as well as public ones as well. For someone like me who's an outsider, I could go to a public hospital and it would be very nominal to sort of receive the services. But there's a ton of health insurance options available, sort of public or private, semi-public, and a lot of them are private insurance options. And a good coverage, like a really good coverage, would not cost you more than about $100 a month at most.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't need healthcare services quite a bit, so maybe a couple times a year at most.
Yeah.
My insurance here costs me about, what is it, 25, 30 odd dollars maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
Yeah,
okay. And
yeah.
if let's say you had an accident and broke something, like an
Mhm.
arm or a leg on a scooter or something like that, would your healthcare cover that fully, or?
Yeah, no, it does. But I'll tell you what, I had a friend who it was we were snorkeling and he had a sea urchin jam into his feet.
Ah,
So that's kind of like somewhat of a scooter accident type incident.
sure, yeah.
And that cost him quite a bit. I think he had to pay about $200 to $300 worth of healthcare, all in all.
Really?
But yeah, it was
Wow.
bad. It was bad. But not to scare people off from the beaches, but no, he had to pay out of his pocket. He was reimbursed later. But a lot of the options that I'm talking about aren't cashless insurance that, they just take care of it. Usually you would settle the tab and then you make your own claims with the insurance companies.
Yeah.
It takes a bit of time, but it was covered. He was fully covered for it.
Yeah. Wow. Tell me, I didn't know that you would have to be, you need medical attention stepping on a sea urchin. I've stepped on a few, but I've always had my, my sea shoes on when
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
but those things are really, yeah, they're super sharp. Do they have some kind of a venom too, or some
I
kind of
don't know for
something that they?
sure. It was a while ago and I don't remember, but no, not a venom that I could think of, but he might have sort of hit it at an angle where it was quite sort of damaging his sort of joint or
Oh,
connective
gotcha.
tissue or something.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So it went in deep.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that wouldn't be
Speaking of sea
fun.
urchins, it's no, no. Speaking of sea urchins, they also eat them out here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a delicacy,
it's a
man.
proper dish. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Don't know how I feel about it, but
All right. So let's go to transportation. So how do people get around on Mauritius?
yeah, that's bit of a pain point. So if you are at a great disadvantage, if you don't have your own method of transport, there is a part of the island in the center where they're trying to build sort of they call it a metro, but it's really more like a tram-like service.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good service, but it's limited to the center, and they're trying to extend it towards the center south. going towards the airport. The airport's at the south of the island.
Mhm.
People over there tend to have it a little bit better. There's a network of private buses and a network of public buses that go around, but they're notorious for taking way longer than it should take you if you were to take a car or something.
Sure.
So yeah, cars are the way to go. If you want to stay within the sort of the part of the island where you are, people tend to get scooters, bicycles, and things like that in the more sort of the urban areas.
Mhm.
But I mean, I would feel very much challenged if I were to lose my car. You could rent a car. The long-term car rentals are pretty reasonable.
Mhm.
You could get really nice rentals for about $120 a month for a
Wow.
little hatchback.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm sure that's gone up now. But yeah, if you were to get
Yeah.
a 6 month to 1 year car rental, actually, my neighbor does that. He rents out cars to people. And yeah, about $120 to $150, you get a little hatchback, you're sorted. Cars are expensive if you were to buy one in Mauritius.
Sure.
The sort of the taxation on the import is quite a bit. So it costs you about twice the price of what it would cost anywhere else
Mhm.
to buy a car. Yeah, long-term rentals are popular among a lot of people here.
Mhm. Do they have any taxis or buses?
There are taxis, quite a lot of taxis. I find them expensive personally.
Okay.
Buses, quite a bit of buses, but like I said, it's going to take you way longer than it should to
Longer.
get anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I used to travel to work what was about a 20-minute ride, 20 to 25-minute ride in my car. I had to catch a bus once and it took me an hour and a half. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They go stopping everywhere.
There's an incentive to get a scooter or a car.
Yeah, yeah. Do get a car or a scooter.
Yeah. All right. And tell us what do people do for entertainment around Mauritius?
Yeah,
What's
sure.
fun to do around there?
You've got places where there's sort of, a string of bars and little restaurants and things, which is sort of limited or more towards the coastal regions. So you've got some sort of nightclub life slowly starting to come back, very touristy at times. So you want sort of bump into a lot of tourists at these places. And there are sort of places where a few cultural things happen, like sort of your music and the arts. There's a lot of visual art things going on. So a lot of painting exhibitions, a lot of those going on. You also have music festivals happening. There's one happening this weekend, which is at the foot of a mountain, which is
Oh,
quite
nice.
it's historically important to Mauritius. And there's a sort of a long colonial story behind it. And that one's focused on local music, local arts, and there's workshops and things. So there are these events which are on a periodic basis, so once a year or twice a year, which people really look forward to. But it is so small that the bunch of people you bump into there are probably going to be the same people you bump into at the next cultural event, for instance.
Yeah.
But it's nice. It's sort of a little community feeling.
Yeah. So you see a lot of the same people all the time, I imagine.
Oh yeah, all the
Yeah.
time. You see a lot
What?
of people, and the whatever degrees of separations there are in the world, it's much smaller here.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. It's very different than Australia or India for sure.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Um, okay. And so as far as like the images that I've seen, and I'm going to put a bunch of images at the end of this podcast for people to check this place out. They are absolutely stunning. Mauritius is so beautiful, and there's so many gorgeous beaches. The water is crystal clear.
Yeah.
I mean, do people is there a lot of is there a dive culture there? Obviously, that people probably snorkel. I'm guessing the tourists, but is there like a big boating culture, fishing culture around
Oh yeah.
Mauritius? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There's quite a lot of big game fishing going on. Locals don't tend to go so much into it. It is very geared towards the tourists, but I mean anyone's welcome to. A lot of big game fishing. There's a culture around that. There's some sort of a surf culture, and I would say in its infancy, but still there. Kite surfing's huge when it comes to the water sports. So there's places around here on a good weather day, you would see about 30, 40 odd people just going at it with their kites. You've got a huge hiking culture too. So if you move a bit further away from the beaches, there's also a lot of hills and rainforest sort of areas with tropical forest areas where beautiful hikes, and you climb on top of the mountains, you see the ocean from there. It's just beautiful blue and stunning.
That would be fantastic. Yeah. What kind of animals do they have out there in the jungle? What have you seen?
Not a lot of wildlife. So
no. Okay.
There are birds. There's a good variety of birds which are endemic to this sort of region in the Indian Ocean. You have quite a bit of animals that are in the wild, but they were introduced to the island. So you have sort of deers, and you have wild boars, which were brought by colonial people for hunting purposes.
Wow.
And that culture exists too. Wild boar hunting and all of that. Yeah.
That's wild.
It's delicious, by the way.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things from here.
Well, is there like a particular dish that's known to be like the Mauritius dish?
Oh yeah, I mean,
is there a main dish?
There is. What would be sort of, let's say, hamburgers and fries with a Coke would probably, like everyday man's food would be what they call a dal puri or a roti. It's
how do you spell that?
DHOLL dal space puri, PURI. I mean, that thing is delicious.
Dal puri. I've never heard of that before. What is that?
It seems to have Indian origins, though I personally haven't come across it in India, funnily enough, but I know it does exist. It's a little tortilla made with lentil and flour, and they fill it up with sort of relish, tomato relish, some beans in there, a bit of chili. They love their chili here. And it's sort of like a soft taco with beans in it.
So that's a dal puri. You got a little oversized taco made of lentils. And in here you got some nice sausage, like your tomato relish, big beans, chili, a lot of taste. And you just pop it in your mouth like that. Very cool.
And the go-to drink is aluda, which is sort of like a milkshake. It's a local milkshake.
What is it called?
Aluda, ALOUDA.
Aluda. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man. What a unique place.
I know. And vanilla tea, that's the other one. I've never seen it anywhere before. You're talking about local tea grown here, infused with proper vanilla. There's a little vanilla around here too. Yeah.
Wow.
Things I've never seen before.
Yeah. If you have any pictures of those, send them to me and I'll add them to the podcast. So people, if you have any,
I'll be
time
out
you're out,
weekend.
take that phone and just snap a photo.
Some. Yeah, sure. Hey, tell you what, if you want, people can check out my Instagram, but that's where I put all my personal stuff and pictures of Mauritius and things. I guess I'll pass it on to you. You can maybe put it down.
Yeah, we'll put the link in here so people can connect with you and contact you.
Sure. Any questions about Mauritius, I'll be happy to help them out.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have with the questions that I have. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that about Mauritius that you want to share? I mean,
I think, yeah, no, sure. The one thing I want to see more of, and I think this place would be perfect for it, is exactly this: digital nomads, people doing cool things on their own, off their own. Um, I maybe I'm being a bit biased, but I would love to see more people who are similar to me here. And I think the island's perfect for it. I mean, it's geared for it. There's all these cool co-working spaces popping up everywhere, cool cafes and restaurants where they want you to sit down and work and, you know, spend the day and do your things. So I think it's perfect for it. I don't know why it's just not more often talked about in these circles. And but yeah, I think we would like to see more of that here.
Well, that's what intrigued me about it. And if, you know, that's the thing that intrigued me. I looked at some of the photos and the images. I didn't even know anything about Mauritius. I remember hearing it years ago, somebody mentioning it years ago, but I never saw any photos or pictures or imagery. When I saw the imagery, I was just like stunned. And then I read a little bit about it, and it's gorgeous. And then you're right. It's like I think it's one of those hidden gems. I think you are, you're like, I really do believe that once word gets out, there may be an influx of people that want to go there and create some startups and join groups with form groups with other like-minded people to create something interesting. And that's what's happening in the world right now. And people are really finding interesting places to do that in. And if you can if you can find rentals for 500 and below on an island that's beautiful, that's
exactly
when people learn of that, it's an ideal place to go. And especially when there is accommodating to welcoming people in with the visas you know, and it sounds like Mauritius is really accommodating to that as well.
So.
Yeah. I just think it's a matter of time. You got your
flights. I think so too. And I think it was on its way, and there was a good sort of pace building up of cool people coming in. And I would like to think that I was one of those people who got into that wave. COVID sort of put some brakes onto it, but I hope that, you know, goes away pretty soon and people start to come back here. I mean, you've got visa options, you've got flights coming in from Dubai multiple times a day, direct flights from Dubai. South Africa as well. From Australia, you've got a direct flight from Perth multiple times a week. So it is quite well connected. From India too.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Well, I hope to see you here sometime.
I'd love to come out and check it out. I would love to get there one day. That's something I definitely need to investigate, because that would be interesting. I guess I'd probably have to fly into the east coast of Africa first, right? I doubt there's no direct flight out there. I'd have to connect somewhere in Africa.
You could. South Africa's one. There are direct flights. Or Dubai tends to be more popular for people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe I'd have to go through
6-hour
Dubai.
Flight.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Well, Kru Dangar,
one day.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share insights into Mauritius. Thank you, man. This has been fantastic.
Really has. Thank you so much for listening about Mauritius. It's great.
Yeah, man. Well, and send me all your links, anything you want me to share, and we'll add them to the podcast. And thanks again, buddy. Have a great day.
Very nice to meet you. Have a good evening.
Same here.